welcome back to our mini-series, The Lone Screenplay Winners, where we talk about films that solely won an Oscar for the writing categories. My name is Matthew Anderson, and today we have on the podcast from Revisionist Almanac. Thank you, Andrew Corns. We'll have him on the podcast eventually down the road. Please welcome Klarissa Beckstead. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I was a little bit, even though we just talked, like we just met like 2 minutes ago before you hopped on, and I was like, I just want to make sure I don't muck up this name because I already did it for like two of my guests recently, and I'm like, oh no.
It's okay.
And I got comments already being like, how dare you, disrespect her name. I'm like, I apologize, okay? I'm sorry.
You did great.
Yeah, it happens sometimes when you do a show like this,
Yeah.
or you have to do like a last-minute recording. This isn't, by the way. We already, we already planned this out like a week in advance. Pretty sure I actually had you in like potential discussions to be on the podcast for at least maybe since May or late April. I can't remember. It feels like it's been forever.
It's been a minute, yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so now that we both have time, getting everything organized, get everything set, we've come to our episode. So yeah, without further ado, we'll just jump right into our discussion since we have a lot to talk about with this. We're going to get through our spoiler-filled discussion for Sense and Sensibility from 1995. I just want to let you guys know, also, this is our... I should also get a few housekeeping rules while I'm at it. First off, this is the... thank you very much for everyone for being, sticking with this show for... This will be out, like, I would say, a couple days after its two-year anniversary for the Lone Screenplay Nominee Podcast. So thank you to everyone who has been so gracious enough and been able to listen, myself and our guests rant or rave about various films. I have a feeling we're going to have a lot to discuss with this. And I also want to let everyone know that I recently signed up with Amazon affiliate program. So if you're interested in hearing any of our discussions that we have on said films moving forward, whether you'd like to own a physical copy of the film, you'd like to go through Amazon Prime to rent it there, or even if you just want to get a copy of any of the adapted screenplay nominees / winners, like if you want to get your hands on the books, like, I want to get the copy of Jane Austen's Sense and Sensibility. I will put links down below in the descriptions, whether you're on YouTube, Spotify, wherever, and just click on there, and check, like I said, just check out the links, and if you do, I'll be able to get I'll earn a small commission each time you click through and purchase said products listed. And just a heads up, there is no additional cost. I've also listed the equipment I use for the podcast as well, if anyone else is interested, whether you're starting your own podcast in of itself, or if you're like Klarissa here, who's like, hey, I want to be a guest on Matt's show or someone else's show, and I want to get all the up-to-date equipment that Matthew gets. So I'll list the stuff there. I also list all the a couple of books as well in regards to like screenwriting books, whether it's Oscar Wars, which is on past Oscar ceremonies, lots of interesting stuff in there to begin with, or Sid Field's screenwriting books, if you want to learn a bit more about screenwriting itself, or you just want to become a writer yourself. So highly recommend, check out those links whenever you can. So yeah, and also by the time this episode will already have come out, hopefully my Patreon after hours will be up and running as we speak. So there's that. So check out so if you're able to be a part of our paid membership, go right ahead. Appreciate it. And again, lots of love and respect, and thank you guys for being a part of this podcast for about 2 years. And I hope to keep this going for at least another year. We'll see how we are on our third year for the podcast. It's already been a lot of hours trying to put this show together. And I'm in the middle of, as I'm recording, I'm in the middle of trying to get a job, so we'll see how things tackle. I'll try to get everything out as quickly as I can. Schedule might change over the next year. I don't know, but for now, it's just going to be a bi-weekly show. But yeah, that's pretty much all the housekeeping status, whatever you want to call it, I have. So Anyways, so that's that. So yeah, on to the movie at hand. This was directed by Ang Lee, and it was written by Emma Thompson, who's also the lead of the film. The premise of the film revolves around the Dashwood family, in which their father dies and their finances are crippled. When they move into a cottage in Denvershire, Eleanor's sister Marianne is torn between the handsome John Willoughby and the older Colonel Brandon. Meanwhile, Eleanor's romantic hopes with Edward Ferrars, I think I pronounced that name right, I could be wrong, are hindered due to his prior engagement. Both Eleanor and Marianne strive for love, while the circumstances in their lives constantly change. So, before we begin our discussion, I want to ask one of the many questions I have for you, Klarissa. Why was it that I sent every guest I sent this list out to, they always look through it, and usually some guests have a really hard time. Others are like, oh, I immediately know what I want to pick. It's that one. Boom. Got it. So why was it that this was the film you wanted to discuss? And have you gotten a chance to read the Jane Austen book itself that this is based upon?
Yeah, so this movie has always been a comfort movie for me. My mom really loves time period romances, Jane Austen specifically, and so there were a lot of movies like this that we watched when I was younger, but this one in particular. And when I was younger, we didn't have the Keira Knightley Pride and Prejudice yet, so if we wanted to watch Pride and Prejudice, we either watched the older version that wasn't the same, and I think it was Laurence Olivier. I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen that one. Or it was the 6.5-hour BBC series with Colin Firth. And as a kid, yes, that was a long time of watching TV. So Sense and Sensibility was kind of that sweet spot, and we watched it so often, and I just loved it. And I loved it so much. And I have 2 older sisters, so I always kind of felt like Margaret. And I have a brother too, but there's no brother in this. So I was like, yeah. I've got my older sisters. But I did read Sense and Sensibility, an abridged version, a long time ago. It was when I was in 9th grade, so I can't really speak to the book as much, but I know that this is a very closely interpreted adaptation. Emma Thompson was super meticulous about it, and so that was another reason I really appreciated the film, is because even growing up, my mom really geeked out about this movie and how much time and thought Emma Thompson put into it. So yeah, when I saw the list, this just stood out like a sore thumb to me because it's been a big deal to me my whole life. So yeah. I'm so excited.
Yeah, so it's clear, yeah, you've definitely at least you got a chance to read like an abridged version of this. I haven't read any of the Jane Austen adaptations. I think the first one I actually got a chance to sit down and watch of any of her works adapted into film was Pride and Prejudice recently, thanks to Ava Kirby from Off Screen Central. So thank you for the inspiration and the kick in the butt. I needed it. So I think I saw that maybe earlier this year, last year. I can't remember because there's so many movies I've been catching up on, not just the podcast, but everything where it's like, everything's a blur. Yeah, so like I said, I haven't gotten a chance to read the Jane Austen book itself. This was technically my first time watching it. I shared offline with you that I had to restarted essentially because no fault of the library of my own, but some of my copies I get when I cover the show, at least lately, I've been trying to go to my public library to support physical media and also the library itself. And so it was one of the first times ever where I rented out a DVD version of theirs and it crapped out on me entirely to where I couldn't finish the movie. No. I think I think the only other time was like Darkest Hour, but one, I had already seen it and also was able to get through like a scene or two, like whatever, that's fine. But it was enough to where I was like, all right, I can't watch it today, so I got to return it back as soon as possible. And I'd forgotten, I'd been busy the last couple days, and even the last couple hours, I was like, oh crap, I got to run errands. But I was like, all right, good. It's like 4:00. I get to start this like right now, so I rented off Amazon Prime. And I finished the whole movie there. And I will say this. I'm not really one... I mean, if anyone's really followed along on my episodes so far, I mean, dating all the way back to, like, When Harry Met Sally, I'm not really one for romantic dramas, so to speak. But I still come away with some of these films understanding why there's such a fan base for them. You know, even the lesser ones. I could understand. It's like, yeah, I get it. It's like very, you know, some of these films can be very much like mindless, fluffy movies to get your attention off of, you know, serious dramatic stuff going on in our lives. And I will say with this, I respect it more than I actually fell head over heels with it. And I think what's interesting about this film is you're right, though. It is interesting that Emma Thompson, her adapting Jane Austen's work and then starring in it, I think that's an interesting process in of itself, especially nowadays we're used to having actors not only direct themselves in these performances, but also writing their own screenplays as well. We saw like Sacha Baron Cohen with the Borat movies, Bradley Cooper with A Star Is Born and Maestro. There might have been other female, I can't think of any like other female actresses who've written and starred in their own films as like main roles. Because usually when you see a female writer writing the screenplays and they're in the movie, they're like a supporting character or like a small part. Like, hey, there's my obligatory cameo, whatever. So I think that's an interesting aspect. I think I came away from it was definitely a lot more respect and admiration for Emma Thompson. But even just Ang Lee as a director, like you see his entire filmography, and it's so fascinating to see what he's done, like not just before this, but even after this, where he did like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which was like a big box office draw, Brokeback Mountain, which is a huge movie. In fact, it just got its like 20-year anniversary re-release that Focus Features did, and even something like Life of Pi, you know, Gemini Man, and even the very misguided but fascinating failure Hulk. Have you seen it yet, Hulk?
Are you talking about the Edward Norton one?
No, with Eric Bana. It was from 2003, 2004. It was like Nick Nolte played the father, Jennifer Connelly's in it, Sam Elliott. If you want to watch a movie that is so misguided and is such a fascinating failure, I would highly recommend watching Hulk. It is easily one of the worst superhero movies I've seen, but unlike Fantastic, it's fascinating to watch to see how Ang Lee went from like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon to that, and it's just it's so like just everything about it is just a misguided failure. It's so interesting to watch, and even so, the people I've interacted with who've seen the movie, they're like, yeah, that was a really weird movie. So yeah, I'd highly recommend it if you're interested. Obviously, maybe use that as like your disposal of like folders of like. If you're ever going through a lot of like highly recommended movies that everyone's like, oh yeah, this is like the greatest film of all time, you're like, yeah, I don't know if it's not that great, it's kind of mediocre, throw this on and be like, you know what, I was wrong, perhaps I treated you too harshly, sir. Because like I said, it's like even if I were to show you like 2 minutes of the movie, you'd be like, what is going on here? But yeah, no, fascinating director in of himself. So yeah, for him to take on this adaptation of Jane Austen's work, and even the technical merits in of itself are pretty impressive, which we'll get into in just a moment, even the performances too. But again, I came away from this more respecting it than I came away from it loving it or even liking it, simply because I personally didn't feel that attached to these characters as much as, say, Pride and Prejudice with the Keira Knightley version, which is the only one I saw. I did not realize the Colin Firth one was 6 hours long, so that'll take me even longer to get around to that one, because I already got enough on the back burner already as is. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's a mini series with BBC, and so they took the opportunity to like. And it's fun, but it's like go into it as a series, not a movie. Yeah. Like a mini-series. But yes, I agree. I understand. There's too much to watch to get to everything, and especially if it's 6.5 hours, that's demanding. I understand.
Yeah. And then even with like the Little Women adaptation with Greta Gerwig directing it, like I came away from. I remember it's been a while since I've seen that. Maybe since like theaters when it came, like Christmas Day. I think was the last time I saw it all the way through. But I remember coming out of that movie liking that a little bit more because I was able to connect with the characters a bit more. But this one here, I definitely understood what Ang Lee and Emma Thompson were doing. This is a clear passion project. No one's really half-assing this. And yet, like I said, there's enough in it in the movie that I respect and admire, but I didn't come out of it like loving it. But I totally get the hype and why people would fall head over heels with this, because it's definitely on the better end of these kind of like romantic dramas that a lot of people would run to, especially if Jane Austen's adaptations in of itself. But I don't, again, I don't know, because like I said, you were much more into this, it sounds like, than I was. In fact, I think you had sent me when it was a while ago when you agreed to come onto the podcast, and you had sent me a link for it was like, what was it? It was like a full screenplay they showed, and then like all these like behind the scenes notes. Because I can't remember, because I didn't get a chance to look at it. But would you care to, like, do you remember what was on the book itself? Was that part of the reason why you were even more fascinated to be like, oh, okay, like this would be something worth talking about for the podcast?
Yes. So it's called the Sense and Sensibility Diaries.
Okay.
And it's essentially, I actually have the exact name. If you look up the, like, let's see. It's Screenplay and Diaries. The Sense and Sensibility Screenplay and Diaries. And essentially, they took the opportunity to write journal entries as they went through writing the script.
Okay.
And the introduction to it is really interesting. It's written by Lindsay Doran, who also was working with Emma Thompson on this. And she opens up with this whole experience with Jane Austen and how she just was kind of anti-Jane Austen as an English major. And when they were doing... I am an English major, and I'm an English education major. So I was actually writing a Jane Austen high school level unit plan when you asked me to come on your show.
Nice.
This was like how perfect. I had just used this to implement in my lesson plan and read from Lindsay Doran this entire kind of experience of, I just did not like Jane Austen. I didn't want to read it or anything. And then how she falls completely head over heels with everything Jane Austen, especially this script and the way it resonates with her. And kind of the experience of creatively collaborating with Emma Thompson.
Okay.
So it's a really, really neat behind the scenes of going through writing this screenplay. And so if you're really into things like that, this is a fun read. And it does go through the script, so it's fun to even experience watching it. Like if you're rewatching the movie at any point, or if you're watching it for the first time and you want to have kind of a contextual, like, literary work, you can Google this and the entire PDF is online. So that's a really neat kind of side to it. And when I was younger, I actually don't remember seeing this in the diaries, and I didn't make it all the way through. But my mom always told me, and again, this is Clarissa's mom, not like a total factual source, but she told me that Emma Thompson took the script and took it to Jane Austen's grave and said, I hope you like it, kind of a thing. So again, we have to fact check that, but I think that she was very intentional about the way that she's like interacting with Jane Austen's work and trying to like almost bring Jane Austen into the spirit of the script, which I thought was really neat.
Yeah, and I think she even said, and again, we'll get to the Oscar stuff down the road with the episode, but I think even when she said she won the Oscar and went on stage, she went to Jane Austen's grave. So I wouldn't
Great.
Yeah, I wouldn't really put it past and be like, you know what, I could probably buy that story if that were true, of like she brought the script to the grave and be like, I hope you're not pissed at this.
Yes.
And
please be happy.
Yeah, and just to double check for our listeners, when you're talking about the diaries, you're talking about the producer Lindsay Doran. Am I correct in saying, like?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Because even I was like, wait, hold on. How is it possible that Emma Thompson would be like, don't like this story at all? I hate Jane Austen. And then adapts the story
Lindsay.
as well as it does to where it's like it's gained such a resurgence for Jane Austen adaptations. We should also bring up the fact that this was the first movie of, or at least one of the first few films of Jane Austen's work to be adapted, and brought in reflourished her work.
Yes.
So it really does show that despite me being very mixed on the movie, that in of itself and that kind of popularity and the box office revenues it got really showcased that this film was it brought that into light of like, hey, let's pass this, Jane Austen's works down into, our next generation. I know they've only done Sense and Sensibility and Pride and Prejudice, but have they done any other works of hers? Do you know? I never got a chance to check.
Like the industry? Like, have there been adaptations?
Yeah, just like of other stories. 'Cause those are the only two I'm familiar with.
Yes, that's totally fine. Let me dive down the Jane Austen rabbit hole because I love her movies.
Awesome.
So Gwyneth Paltrow is in, with Ewan McGregor, a movie called Emma. Okay. And I believe it's from 1991. That is one of my favorite Jane Austen adaptations. I, again, read Emma when I was younger. I really should readdress the books. There was a recent one that came out with Anya Taylor-Joy and Bill Nighy as her dad. I enjoyed that adaptation, but I didn't feel like she was really Emma. I felt like Gwyneth Paltrow, like, really embodied Emma. So if you're looking for a good version of Emma, I recommend the Gwyneth Paltrow version from the 90s. And then Clueless, with, like, from the 90s as well, with Paul Rudd, is an adaptation of Emma, which is so funny. It's like how She's the Man is Twelfth Night. It's one of those. Or like, what is it? 10 Things I Hate About You is Taming of the Shrew, similar to that. So Clueless is an adaptation of Emma. So if you really enjoy, it's a coming of age story. She's young, she's a little bit naive, and she starts to come into her own, and that's when she finds true love and kind of opens her eyes to things. So that's kind of that story. And then Dakota Johnson was actually recently in a version of Persuasion. It's on Netflix. Right. Yeah, Persuasion is a Jane Austen book. And then Felicity Jones and J.J. Fields were in an adaptation of Northanger Abbey, which is kind of like a haunted ghost story vibe of Jane Austen's, which is really fun. Really young Felicity Jones. She's adorable. And then there's also Mansfield Park. I've only seen that one once, and it was a long time ago, so I can't really speak to it. I do remember really enjoying it, but I don't remember the cast off the top of my head. Okay. Mansfield Park is a good one, though, as well. And I think that's from the early 2000s, or 2000s to 2010s, like right in that kind of gap. But yeah, there are a lot of adaptations I really like. If you want to go down the rabbit hole of Pride and Prejudice adaptations, there are a ton. I'm from Utah, and I grew up LDS, actually, or Mormon. A lot of people know it as Mormon. And we grew up watching an adaptation that was filmed in Utah, and it's all about, like, people in the church kind of having this, like, this weird dating relationship, which is really funny. It's on Prime. So there's, like, fun things like that. There's there's a Bollywood version of Pride and Prejudice, which is really fun. It is very, very fun. It has the main guy from The Ring, and I'm blanking on his name. But yes, that is a fantastic adaptation as well. There's the Lizzie Bennet Diaries on YouTube. There's a whole plethora, and there are multiple adaptations in Old Hollywood. So it's really, really fun. If anybody wants to take a kind of dive down the rabbit hole, I'm sure there are a ton of blogs out there to get people into Jane Austen. I have never seen another adaptation of Sense and Sensibility, which I actually appreciate because it makes me appreciate this one so much more. I feel like it's not, the characters are more, I'm picturing Alan Rickman as Colonel Brandon, always.
Yeah, it hasn't quite yet gotten the what do you call it, like, I don't know what you call it nowadays, remakes, like the Disney-fied version where it's like, we gotta reboot this because even though it was such a popular, Oscar-winning, money-making movie, we gotta do it. But yeah, I am shocked we haven't gotten a remake for it yet.
Right.
But yeah, we'll get to that down the road. But as for the movie itself, what were some things that you appreciated about this adaptation by Ang Lee and Emma Thompson?
I really appreciated that they stuck to a lot of historically factual things in the way that they, like, manufactured this film, which is kind of a weird way to say that. But, like, when Marianne is sick and they're bleeding her, that was a medical decision, like, that they used to do back in the day. They thought that they didn't realize that it was your your white blood cells were fighting things, so they thought it was just sickness in your blood, and that's how they would bleed you out, and that was technology at the time. They had the bowl made for it. I appreciated, too, that they had really historically accurate clothes, hair. I mean, honestly, there are a lot of times for me, I don't love Eleanor's or Emma Thompson's hair in this movie. It kind of bothers me, but I'm like, this is historically accurate. This is what it looks like. They made sure it was... it's not the Keira Knightley Pride and Prejudice where they have things that are a little bit more loose and country and things like that. There's a different formality behind it, which I really appreciate in the film, because I do think that going forward there were quite a few time period or Regency era films that came out that sort of tinkered with things. That's another thing I appreciate about the BBC Pride and Prejudice, but that's one thing I really appreciated, that we weren't being catered to. We had historically accurate things in the film, which really made it feel a little bit more tangible to the time that Jane Austen was also writing this and the things she was experiencing. Because Jane Austen started writing things at a very young age as she was experiencing them in her own societal experiences. So that was another way you could kind of see her appreciation for Jane Austen, which I liked. I love the music in this. I think it really ties to the way that it feels, but it feels very intentional, and it has a really great relationship with the script. You know, almost feeling a little bit old Hollywood-esque, but not at the same time. I don't know. I feel like that's one of those things you just have to watch and feel of, like, these are two languages that are merging together so beautifully. The music and the script just work really well together. Yeah.
Yeah, Patrick Doyle is the guy who composed the music for this, known for doing a lot of Kenneth Branagh's works. Did not do the score for Belfast because there wasn't much score to begin with, but I'm looking through. He also did the score for Goblet of Fire as well, replacing after John Williams.
I did not know that.
Yeah. I remember, like, the Harry Potter films, John Williams only did the first 3, and then he's like, all right, screw it. I want to do other things. So they hired on, like, other composers. Desplat was another one. Who else was there?
Yes.
Gosford Park he did the score for. Yeah, and he got, I think this was his first of many Oscar nominations he got. Yeah, Sense and Sensibility, Hamlet. Dang, he only got 2. Wow. Okay, interesting.
Deserved more.
Yeah,
really.
I would. Well, I mean, you know, maybe it was because of the Emoji Movie he worked on that it was like, okay, yeah, we don't need to give him more. Get out of here. Get going. Get going, please.
Not the Emoji Movie, no.
Yeah. It happens sometimes. You work on a movie, it's like,
does.
whatever, it was for a paycheck. I move on.
Yeah, right.
Stop tarnishing something I had to pay the bills for, damn it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I did like the score from Patrick Doyle, I should say, not Boyle. And one of the things I do have to comment on is in terms of the score itself. I don't know how much, because I'm not as, like, I'm not knowledgeable of this time period, so the music that they were playing on the piano, it seemed real enough, but also I liked how when there's a scene in the film where Kate Winslet's playing on the piano, Hugh Grant and Emma Thompson, they talk with each other very quietly as she's playing on the piano, and then it transitions to Emma and Hugh Grant going outside to talk for a bit, even on horseback. And I thought it was just the way it transitions itself from the music playing on the piano played by Kate Winslet and then transitions into like a very subtler score. So as they're talking, I thought was really good. And even all throughout, it's like it's used effectively. Like you notice there's a score there, but it's not overbearing. Like a lot of these other, like even nowadays, it's just so over the top, and it's like, come on, like we're trying to insist this is the kind of emotion you're getting out of us or out of the audience. But I don't know, it didn't seem, even if there were moments like that in the film Sense Sensibility, I felt like they earned it enough, or it wasn't too on the nose like again other scores are. So yeah, Patrick Doyle, he did a good job with. One thing I also want to credit on. And I'm wondering how you feel about this. I really like the cinematography in this.
Yes.
by who's the guy's name? Michael Coulter, who gained his only Oscar nomination he has to date. In fact, the year before this, he did 4 Weddings and a Funeral, and he worked on Notting Hill, which was another Hugh Grant movie.
And the cinematography is just amazing in that one as well. So,
okay.
Understandable.
Yeah. I haven't seen it yet, so. So yeah, probably like another romantic drama. I'll get around to it down the road, but yeah, no, it's really well presented. Like not just the shots of the countryside are great, but even like I could see why this got nominated for cinematography to begin with because of how you're framing some of these group shots together, you know, where you have the 3 sisters together talking with their mother or talking with like a guest at the cottage, you know, even with the there's a moment in the film, hold on, I'm going to bring up the characters' names because I wrote it down in my notes. Who was it? There's a push in for the camera on Fanny and Lucy when Lucy reveals her secret engagement to her brother or one of her brothers. I thought,
moment.
Yeah, and even like the way it's cut together, and even like it doesn't do like a quick push in; it's like very slowly pushing in. And I like that a lot. That was cool. And I think the camera even pushes in when Alan Rickman comes in with Marianne, Kate Winslet's character from The Rain. I thought that was pretty good. There's also one other shot I you know, it's something that I miss, but we don't get it nowadays. Because nowadays they would use a lot of like computer generated effects or, you know, modern technology stuff. But it was after Marianne gets sick from the second rainfall later on in the film. This is like the last half of the film. And Emma Thompson walks out of her room and into the corridors and then down the steps into Hugh Laurie's door and knocks on it and says, "We need a doctor." The way that's framed, obviously, you have the candle lighted there on the candlestick, her holding it. She goes down these steps, and I realized in my head, how do these filmmakers back in the day, how would they usually light a scene like this? Because nowadays it would be shot like it is, very like poorly lit, whatever. Because it's like, yeah, we got to make it realistic. But there are times where it's like, okay, well, why don't you just light and frame the movie like a movie? It doesn't. Sometimes these just, you're sort of emotionally, movies are there to manipulate you or grab your attention. So there are times where you have to break the laws of physics to be like, in order to achieve a shot like this you see in the movie, and there you go. Because you're so absorbed with the movie, you're like, oh, I forgot that's what they did. But one thing, I don't know how they did this shot, but I almost wonder if as she's walking down the steps, they have above the ceiling lights like just lit enough, or just like enough lighting is coming in to where they're timing it the right way, so that once she reaches the door, all you see is like the light emitting from the candle and like maybe the overhead light that's captured from it. I kind of wonder if that's how they did that trick. Because I was watching it, I'm like, I really am amazed by some of the lighting and shot composition they're doing, and it's just really good. And I would love to find out more about this. And if I had a little bit more time, maybe I would have learned, if that's how they did it or not. But yeah, just something like that. It's just one of the many things that Ang Lee does so well is being able to adapt, telling the story of family dramas within said films, but also having a way of perfecting the technology given to him. Unfortunately, nowadays he's kind of, even he has admitted himself, it's like, maybe I shouldn't have pushed on this idea of like CG 3D technology that it's like audiences are now used to doing with like Gemini Man and Billy Lynn's Long Walk, I think it was. That was a military drama he did. But yet, even something like Brokeback Mountain or Crouching Tiger or Hidden Dragon, there's still a lot of well-crafted, technology being used. Like, you wouldn't have noticed watching Brokeback Mountain that there's a herd of sheep that is done through computer generation, like CG. And it's incredible, even in something as small as this, and he's still able to use interesting, I guess, like technical advancements or like special effects of sorts. Yeah, but it's just something that, again, it's like one of the many things that keeps me from not being like, oh, this was like whatever, this is a whatever movie. But it's like, again, it's just things like that make me appreciate it. So yeah, that's all I have to say for now. Was there anything else from the movie, especially with the performances, that you were really impressed with? I think you already mentioned Alan Rickman was one that you really liked a lot.
Yes. So, well, first off, I kind of wanted to touch on what you were saying about all of these different elements that really brought this movie together. I think that, especially with the challenge of like a time period drama or like a Regency era drama, we have things, I mean, and if you ever want to look into it, lighting with candle is very tricky. Stanley Kubrick actually took on the challenge with Barry Lyndon, if you've like read anything about the lighting in Barry Lyndon. But candlelight is very tricky. And I think that the use of diegetic, non-diegetic sound in this film, it just shows that all of these filmmakers behind the scenes had their own performances. So I'm tying that in with performances. But I think it speaks, like, sound in this film is its own character. When, like, the only time we really see, like, hear people talking, but we're not looking at them, is when I think it's John and Fanny are in the carriage and she's asking him to, like, bring down all this money he wants to give them. And then the rest of the time, we're seeing these characters talk the rest of the movie, and so it's like, what is the disconnect there? That was intentional. When Marianne finally gets her piano from Colonel Brandon, and she's playing this calm, beautiful sound song for the first time since they've lived there in her home. She has a piano again, something she's passionate about, and all of a sudden it's showing this beautiful countryside as if she is now free. Like, she has this peace of mind. She was the one roaming the countryside, but she hasn't since everything's happened. And so it's a character of its own. And that's what's so beautiful about filmmakers, is that we look at these characters as what's in front of us, and that's very normal. The performances and the directors are very much the people who get really big time credit, I feel like. But I love that we have Academy Awards and nominations for people who do sound design, music, cinematography, things like that, lighting, because it is so important. But performances-wise, I feel like this story is told so well because there are so many different characters and personalities that are portrayed in this movie. If you like Hugh Grant, this is very much a movie that is different for Hugh Grant. You have Love Actually, where he's dancing all over as the prime minister, and he's being goofy and silly and outgoing and fun, but he's awkward and quiet and conservative, and he keeps to himself in this movie, and that's what makes him so perfect for Eleanor. And he just does so well embodying that character for somebody who's such a heartthrob in Notting Hill or Love Actually, things like that. And so I think that's a really fun way to kind of portray that. Alan Rickman, specifically, I wanted to mention him because in this movie, this is one of the only movies, really, that I've seen of Alan Rickman where he is an amazing guy.
Yeah.
An amazing, good guy.
Yeah.
And he's romantic.
Yeah.
And he's handsome. I mean, I thought he was really handsome in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. As a kid, had a big crush on him, but he was a stinker. He was a bad guy. And so I remember I was still kind of scared of him when I was younger. But this movie, he is such a heartthrob. And I think that Alan Rickman really deserved that opportunity. And him and Emma Thompson were just so close. Yeah. And you can tell that she really just had him in mind and heart for this role. And he brought those skills that he had from the stage, because he started on the stage as a stage actor originally, and then Die Hard was his first movie. He actually didn't want to do that because he didn't want to be typecast as a villain. But it was his second or third day in Hollywood, and they said, "We need you as Hans Gruber." And he said, "Oh, I don't know, I don't want to be a villain." Too bad. Yeah. So I think Emma Thompson in this movie really helped bring him out of that villain box, and him carrying Marianne in the rain and saving her and pacing. And I mean, his first moment in the movie is one of the best camera moments, I personally believe, because it's a medium close-up, and it's only him. Like, you can tell it's only from the chest up, like, because it's a medium, shot, and it pans as he walks in, and it's a side profile. It is only him looking at her, which I think is such a powerful introduction to his character across the board. Like, it was very intentional. That camera is the character.
Yeah.
And you feel that. You feel the way that he immediately just falls for her and her connection and passion and music and just who she is. And he just does such a great job embodying that. I don't think a lot of people could walk into a scene and have that be their first moment in a movie as well as Alan Rickman did in this movie. I really don't. I think he just did too well with it.
Yeah, I also want to say, I don't know, because I did forget that Emma Thompson and Alan Rickman were very close friends, but do you remember if it was before they worked on this movie that they were close friends, or was it like during the film?
I think it was before.
Okay.
I think they've been friends for a long time. I can't really remember. I have his memoir. I just haven't read it. But she writes the like opening to that memoir, which is just really beautiful and really tender. But they were very close friends, and so I can't remember if it was this movie or if they had done something before when they were younger. I think they might have. But I'll have to double check on that.
I was going to say the idea of Professor Snape and Professor Trolley or whatever.
Trelawney,
like them being best friends. Like, it's like, that's really odd, but it's like, oh no, you watch this movie, you're like, okay, that makes sense.
Well, they both piss off students, so it works.
Yeah. But I also do want to point out, though, that like that scene with when he's revealing Willoughby's, secret as to why he's, very much against this person, so to speak. For me, at least, it really did showcase, Alan Rickman definitely got the dramatic moments he got from stage and, even in Die Hard and other films like that. And it's one of the many cases I always bring up where, so long as this is involving like the screenwriter, the director, and the casting director, so long as you find an actor who's able to accomplish you could believably buy enough of this guy in said role, then then you'll be fine. Because you see a lot of these directors where they'll hire an actor and they'll say, okay, we want Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson to play like this neurotic, character in Southland Tales, and it's a complete disaster. Let's have Mila Kunis play the Wicked Witch of the West and that Sam Raimi Oz movie that she was in. There's other stuff.
Gosh,
I'm probably gonna get shit on for this. I don't care. Like, most of Timothée Chalamet roles are very much like miscast for me. But it happens with that. But then every once in a while you're like, oh wow, I didn't realize someone like Brendan Fraser in The Whale had it in him in this. In that. Paul Walker in Running Scared. It's like, wow, like he's actually pretty good in this. And Alan Rickman here, it's like he's pretty good, and it's
great.
And it's a shame because he never really you're right though, I don't think he ever really got a role like this ever again. But I could imagine, even if Emma Thompson and Alan Rickman weren't friends before this, I can imagine while they were filming that Emma seemed really proud that Alan was citing her dialogue, especially again with the Willoughby reveal itself, because I could, obviously I could see her as an actor reacting off of what he's saying, but also even with her eyes, it'd be like she's so proud of this guy. And obviously, I grew up watching Alan Rickman in the Harry Potter movies. And it's, obviously there's a reason why I can't rewatch that as much now. But one of my favorite line reads I always got a crack out of, even as a kid, of Alan Rickman, where he's in the first Harry Potter film. It was like, he's telling the kids, like, be careful. You don't want people to think you're up to something. And it's just like, just the way he says that, and even the look at the kid, I'm like, it was it's good deadpan, but at the same time it seemed like awkwardly timed. But that's always a weird acting tick from him, but he's still a good actor. Like, I've seen him in other things too. So whenever I see him pop up, even in something like this, I'm like, oh great, it's awesome. I get to see more of Alan Rickman. And he's good in the movie too. Like, anytime he's on screen, he's pretty charming. He's really eloquent, and and you could believably buy why Kate Winslet would fall head over heels with the Colonel. And I like the fact that they cast him a little bit older than Kate Winslet. I don't know what the age range was for Rickman and Winslet at the time.
Yeah.
But nowadays you'd probably cast like a like a handsome young man from like the Summer I Turned Pretty or something. I don't know.
Right.
Like around that age, it's like, okay, whatever. But yeah, but no, I really liked him a lot. And then, yeah, obviously, without further ado, we should also talk about the other, the two leads that got nominated for this, Kate Winslet and Emma Thompson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's hard to not even touch on their performances and chemistry as sisters.
Yeah.
Really, it's almost like they are sisters in real life. It's hard to not believe that, including their mother as their mother and young Margaret as their sister. I mean, their family was perfectly cast. You see that too in this moment when everyone is crying and Emma Thompson just sits on the stairs with her cup of tea.
Yeah, that
because
was good.
Everyone's so upset, and I'm like, I literally remember this in my home. My family, we're all thespians, and so we were really dramatic kids. Like, oh, so dramatic. And I remember my sisters crying and sharing a room, and they're both crying, and I'm on the other side of the wall crying because I can hear them crying, and they're upset, and my mom's stressed and crying, and I'm like, this is just so real. Like, they feel like a family. I know what this looks like with my sisters, so I completely agree. I think, too, Kate Winslet really has not done enough time period pieces. She looks so timeless in this movie, and she just does so well, like an incredible performance. And one thing I wanted to comment on, too, kind of what you were saying with Alan Rickman and Kate Winslet, Colonel Brandon and Marianne have like an 18 or 19 year age gap.
Okay.
And so that's why, like, they do look that age gap, but I think too it speaks so much to both of them as actors for how well they made that gap like seem so seamless, and Marianne is supposed to be really resistant to that in the beginning, and she does so well with it. She feels kind of weird about that, but then there's this romantic element, and honestly this was pretty normal, like, for the Regency era. It is, and he was a well-intentioned man, like that. They did fall in love. But they had that chemistry. But it's you saw that kind of young feeling of Marianne feeling that way, and then that development between the two of them is just so massive. Seeing them get married at the end compared to like the coldness and awkwardness she feels in the beginning, it really is an amazing love story in itself.
Yeah, I mean, even the age gap, which I was literally just about to bring up, it's like, guys, anyone who's complaining about the age gap, it's like, you realize this is the time period. It's like in Call Me By Your Name, where, with like Call Me By Your Name, it's like, you guys realize that the age consent in Italy, or whatever that story said, is completely different to where it is in America. You're either on board with it or you're not. But, but regardless, though, and I just read, I completely forgot, this was Kate Winslet's second film role she had.
No way.
She did Heavenly Creatures, which was directed by Peter Jackson, and he would go on to, be this like big filmmaker, auteur, technology, proficient like Ang Lee in his own way. And then she also did the same year that this came out. She did A King in King Arthur's Court, which I heard not many good things about it. But she was in another film that Peter Doyle composed, which was Hamlet. Kenneth Branagh's take on it the year after this.
Yes. I forgot about that.
Yeah. No, we were talking about, Christian and I, we were talking about Kate Winslet, and I talked about it with other guests off air about her performance, and, she's had a wide range of terrific performances. This is another solid performance from hers, although it's not quite my favorite of hers, that especially of her like nominated work. And yet, out of all the performances that she's nominated for, the one that she wins is like the worst one that you could give it to her for. It's like, why? Why the reader? I don't get it.
Yeah.
It's like, come on. Like, we get
well,
it.
Where was Eternal Sunshine?
Yeah,
where was that?
Yeah,
she did
it's
so
like
amazing in that one.
It's like there's other performances of hers, but it's like whatever. It happens sometimes with these things.
Right.
It's also interesting though that Emma Thompson became, I think, like the only person to win an acting and a writing Oscar. Obviously not for the same movie, but just throughout her career, because we've seen plenty of actors. I mean, I've already stated like Sacha Baron Cohen, Bradley Cooper, Ethan Hawke's another one who's like a writer and actor himself.
Right.
And it's interesting to see how Emma Thompson's like the only person to pull that achievement off, because she got her first Oscar win for Howard's End, which was directed by James Ivory. Have you seen that yet?
Yes, it's a great movie.
Okay, it's been a while since I've seen it. I'd like to revisit it down the road. And then she gets nominated for this here as well for lead actress, and I think she does quite a good job with the role. I guess for me, even though I do believably buy Emma Thompson and Kate Winslet as sisters, even though I don't know really the age gap between the two of them, whether in the story or in real life when they filmed this, but I bought them enough in their characters, as sisters. But also I like too how the writing for Emma Thompson, like, again, she's able to differentiate the sisters a bit, like not just with the two, but even with the third. Well, the third one's like, here's the third one. But I do like that they're, one is very much open and willing to share her feelings and such, and let everyone know how she feels with Kate Winslet's character, and then Emma Thompson's very much like reserved and preserving her feelings because she doesn't want anyone to use this as like fuel for the fire for like rumors and gossips everywhere. So it's immediately you could tell not just on the performances but even in terms of how their characters are written which of the two was which.
Yes,
which I like. So yeah, and obviously Emma Thompson, she's good in the movie, like I said, but I would like to revisit her other nominations to see where I'd rank her in her, like, in terms of like acting performances, like where does this fit. But I'm okay that she got nominated. I mean, Kate Winslet's another one where I'm like, sure, I'm okay they got nominated for this role.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I like what you said about how they are. I mean, really, those sisters are polar opposites, but they have such a sweet relationship as sisters.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting seeing Emma Thompson in other roles like Professor Trelawney, where she can be this, like, she has such a range.
Yeah.
But she is so reserved and protective of the family. You can tell that she really takes that role as well. She's the one doing the budget. It's not her mom. It's her as the oldest, even though that's not something, if it falls to anyone, it should fall to mom. But she takes that role. She takes the responsibility. And so she feels that she has to reserve her feelings and things like that and be the rock of the family. And so when she has those emotional moments, they're very reserved. When she has that breakdown of, for weeks I've had this pressing on me and I've been heartbroken and even I have evidence enough for you of a broken heart. That whole monologue is so powerful and emotional, yet still reserved, because you can tell she's out of her comfort zone, but she's still holding on to being that introvert, which just has got to be such a challenge as an actress of like, I have to be very intentional about this because this is someone who is not me. Yeah. And she's talking to Kate Winslet's character, who is incredibly passionate and motivated to express herself, and she gets mad at Hugh Grant for being similar to Eleanor and is like, stop reserving it, like, try it again, read it with more passion, like, this is Shakespeare, so I love what you said. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I actually forgot about that scene. And then as she like reprimands Hugh Grant, you can see the little daughter in the background, like, oh, I'm awake, I'm okay. Yeah, that was funny
for sure, because he's reserved, he's quiet, and then he's trying, and he's got this little quiet aid, and like the way he's using his voice is so funny, but it really exemplifies her character.
Even with Hugh Grant and Emma Thompson, they also have really good chemistry in themselves. Not just, like, the conversations that they're having with each other, the dialogue there is good, but even with the chemistry that they have, like, off each other, like, interacting, it doesn't feel like two actors who were just randomly taken off the street. It's like, there you go, there's a couple. You know, even though Hugh Grant's character is very shy and timid, he's able to help Emma Thompson's character out by getting the youngest sister underneath from the table to interact with her and help get to get her out of her shell, so to speak. I thought that was really cool. And I am starting to notice a little bit of a pattern here where the suitors for these women for Jane Austen's books are very much like, and maybe this is kind of going back to what this type of genre ends up doing. It's like, we're gonna have these women end up, you know, like, we're gonna give them happy endings, but we're also gonna have them paired up with nice suitors that aren't deeply flawed characters, or, you know, not have like an abusive asshole be this character. Yeah. So so yeah, that's something that I'm like, I kind of have to be like a little bit more like, it is kind of doing exactly what audiences would expect out of this kind of work, and there are books like this. It's just, but on the other hand, I do wish that it had been a little bit more complex with it. Like, honestly, I think out of the Jane Austen works that I've seen, or another source material story adapted into film that I personally appreciated was the Keira Knightley Pride and Prejudice. Just because even though I kind of knew where that story was going with the McFadden character and Keira Knightley's character, I knew where that arc was going. I was still invested with the story because of their performances and that they do have good chemistry with each other. And there's a couple of great moments in that movie that showcases Keira Knightley's acting capabilities, and I'm like, holy shit, she's really good at this. And yeah, so I something about that just surprisingly, I was shocked. I actually came out of it liking it. But this one here, like I said, I appreciated what they're doing as a whole with the whole cast and crew. No one's really phoning it in, and yet I came away from it just respecting it, not really loving it, and I wish I did. But again, I understand why this has such a big following and a big fan base, because there are people who are much more familiar with the book, or at the very least grew up watching this with their mothers, their sisters, their daughters, grandkids, whoever. So yeah, I really don't have anything too specific really with the movie that I would like to bring up, but is there any other things that you want to bring up for the movie itself?
Yeah, I think one thing, and this just kind of goes to like Jane Austen as a whole, one thing I think that we forget, or that people don't really know, is that there was, like, Jane Austen is such a famous writer for a reason, and it's because she challenged so many things in the Regency era with, like, there's a lot of social commentary in her books, and that's what she's so famous for. She has 7 novels that are really pretty famous, and those are kind of the ones we were talking about. But we see them now, and for me, and this like might be a silly perspective, but I still really appreciate it. It's nostalgic. This is a very peaceful movie for me, and that's why it's a comfort movie. It's like, we watch movies like this sometimes for simpler times, right? We see, I mean, at the end of the day, it's people dating. Yeah. But it's also people, like a family trying to survive after loss. Yeah. It's women who were told to either confine their feelings and they compress their feelings, or they were told they were way too flamboyant and out there, like Eleanor's constantly telling Marianne, like, you need to be more reserved with your feelings. Like, this is inappropriate, or, you know, you don't know what propriety is, and like she's racing down the street on this cart having fun with Willoughby, and they're like, you're freaking out the village, like you're freaking everyone out, like stop doing that. So things like that we see now as just entertainment and little things, it really was social commentary from Jane Austen, and each of her books has these kind of little points and purposes behind them, and we just don't understand them now with the context of our society. We watch them for comfortability, because we have different challenges, but at the same time we experience those same things. And so I think that the way that Emma Thompson was very intentional with this really speaks to that, to still keep the integrity of why Jane Austen wrote these. I appreciate that we saw them sitting down and budgeting and we have a cottage and, we can't afford beef, we can't afford salt, we can't afford these things because we've had a loss and we have no way to support ourselves except for marriage. Like,
Yeah.
that's how it is. And so I just think that's an interesting thing to kind of talk about with these movies, is that, yes, sometimes we like them for fun, and we watch things like Bridgerton now or things like that are just like, oh, fun, yay, romantic, and cool dresses and balls and whatever. But there's also like very serious commentary that made Jane Austen famous for a reason. I love that.
Yeah, I always appreciate, even if once again, even if I don't fall head over heels with some of these stories and films, I always appreciate when artists and authors, they try to, at the end of the day, there is a base story for it, but they also try to interweave, whether it's very subtly or, that's the inspiration of the story, where they do try to end up throwing in these like subtle commentaries or ideas and themes about socialism, classism, things like that. Even like you said, dealing with the loss of a loved one and how to move on from that, essentially, which is very interesting because I actually thought Kate Winslet's character, I could have sworn that she was going to bite the bullet by the end of it. I'm like, oh wow, another tragedy. Okay, wow, this
is it for her.
Yeah, this is it. This is done. So I thought that was interesting, and I always do appreciate when films do that, because I'd rather a filmmaker or a storyteller try to make an attempt to tell that kind of story rather than just like, here's a bunch of themes and ideas that I would like to present in a film. Let me force feed all this, down your throats, but not really have a great enough story or a good enough story to feed to the normie audience, so to speak. And it's like you know what? It's like at that point, it's like, what's your point? What are you trying to do? Like, don't you maybe you're rushing into this? Like, maybe you should just, I don't know, go back to the back burner and redo this again, because I've seen directors and stories be that way, and it's like, come on, this is so lame. Speaking of which, there actually was one other thing, and you just reminded me of it when you were giving your thoughts on it. Ever since I didn't tell you this off air, but I went to Stevenson University for filmmaking, and we took a sound design course. And when we got to it, we were told ahead of time, like, whenever you see characters in like a very windy environment, they usually have to like go back into the recording booth and redub their lines. So anytime I see something like Dead Man's Chest, where you see Jack Sparrow and Will talking at the chest and the wind's blowing in Jack's hair, it's like, that was completely ADR. It's great ADR, but it's totally ADR. I had another situation with this when Kate Winslet's giving her speech about Willoughby in the rain, and I'm, at the countryside, and you're welcome, folks. I ruined that powerful moment for you, but that's all I could think about watching it was like, oh, she, it's ADR'd in recording booth. So I thought that was hilarious.
It's just her like muffled.
Yeah, it's like the wind's picking it up. So like, funny. Even if you have the best mic in the world, even at that time period, like when this was made, you're still not going to be able to get all the audio bits you can get. It's good as a reference point, but it's not something you want to use for a professional movie. And,
right? Totally.
Yeah, because I've seen a lot of filmmakers do that, where they have like their audio's peak in film, and it's like, this should not be peaking. What are you guys doing? Like, and apparently, like, a lot of people are like, yeah, whatever, it's peaking. Nah, I don't care, whatever, it's just a movie. Like, okay, I'm clearly having this issue too. Maybe it's just a me thing, I don't know. So, anyways.
No, I appreciate it, yeah. It's nice, it's good to break down films like that, and like, I have a film studies minor, and so it's like interesting going through and like talking about these things in like depth of, oh, I know now what I'm looking for, and like, I know the rain smack in your face, and there's no way you're saying that line that loud, like, but it's okay. We appreciate that there are people back there doing these things, but I like that even though you didn't, like, this film didn't really resonate with you, that there are all of these things that you can still take from it, because at the end of the day, it's okay. Like, you don't have to absolutely love every movie, right? And that's more than fine. But I love that you're able to, like, utilize those tools and say, I am seeing all of these different things that went into this film, and clearly this was a massive effort, and I can really appreciate it for that. Like, end of the day, I think that is one of the most important things when it comes to talking about movies, watching movies. You know, there are movies that I really do not care for plot-wise at all, but I really love, like, the execution of it. And so I think that's a really great side of analyzing this film too, and this film deserves it. A lot of people just watch it as like, oh yay, a romance about people from back in the day and they're riding horses, and oh no, they got dumped, blah, blah, blah. But I like that there's so much more to it too.
Yeah, I mean, not every movie that guests recommend, or I, say like, hey guest, can you come on to talk about, said movie, not every one of them is going to be great. Like, we did an episode recently actually on My American Uncle, and the guest we had on was so excited because they loved Hiroshima Mon Amour, which is the director's other film. And we were like, yeah, sure, we'll do a My American Uncle. And then we finally got around to it, and we're like, oh, God, this is so boring. It's so pretentious, up its own ass. But then there's other conversations where it's like Conclave, where it's like myself and the guest Lewis, we were just completely divided on. And, he had a lot of great things to say about it. And I was like, yeah, I was just kind of bored out of my mind. And even though I immediately tried giving it another chance, and I'm like, there's just not enough in here to be like, I don't really get even, like, I don't know, it just happens sometimes where it's like, maybe on on my like surface level, it just looks like, oh, of course the sets look as good as they are, the costumes are as good as they are because that's their job. But in reality, it's like, you don't really know how tough it was to maybe get the budget down for some of these like set decorations or props they need. Maybe it was like a last minute thing. It was like, oh yeah, we, I don't know, whatever it is.
Totally. Yes. 100%. I think for me, when I give a film like a 10 out of 10 rating, like on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm rating a film, I give 4 points for my emotional experience, because end of the day, it's still entertainment. I give the 6 points for like the artistic analytical side of it, but 4, you still are able to, like, it should be your emotional response to that movie.
Yeah,
that's okay. Like, I think that there should be a massive chunk of reviewing movies like that. Like, I mentioned Barry Lyndon, its execution is clearly amazing, and we spent 3 weeks in my, like, one of my film aesthetic classes talking about Barry Lyndon. I can't stand that character. I love Ryan O'Neal, but Barry Lyndon's a freaking douche. He's the worst. Like, he's so annoying. But I can appreciate the film for what it is now. Will I watch it again for fun? No. I will not. And that's okay. But yeah, I like that you added that to it as well.
Maybe we should have, maybe I was about to say, I thought you were going to diss on Barry Lyndon, to where I'm like, I think we need to put you in like a Clockwork Orange trap. You like keep rewatching it until you apologize and be like, there you go.
I actually haven't watched Clockwork Orange. That's one I actually turned off like immediately and never watched.
I haven't either. I
okay, but you know what it is.
No, I do. I'll tell you a funny story off air about that. We had it. I'll tell you about that. So, yeah, I don't really have anything else to really say about the movie. I respect what Ang Lee and Emma Thompson are doing. It's a big passion project for them, and it's something that they're, it's clearly touching for a lot of people, and it's not really, thankfully, this isn't a movie that's really like, oh, God, I can't believe this is getting so much attention. Boo, get out of here. But, it's like, so long as it's not like a harmful movie, it's like, all right, whatever, move on with my day. But no, this one I appreciated, I respected. So yeah, if obviously we've already spoiled a good chunk of the movie, but if you've already reached the point in our discussion and you're like, I'm undecided, it's like, you should watch this and see how you feel about it. Because like I said, if it weren't for the show, I probably would have been like, oh yeah, let's watch Sense and Sensibility. I'd be like, bored out of my mind, 20 minutes in, click. But that is one of the many benefits of the show is, you get a guest on who's really passionate about the movie, and it's like, cool, I'm curious to know what you got out of it on your watch,
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah.
Absolutely. I was going to say, I'm going to tell everyone go watch it. Yeah. Go give it a watch. But I think too, I think it's nice to have both perspectives. Yeah. Like this was a nostalgic film for me, but it's fun talking to somebody who is watching it for the first time.
Exactly. Yeah. And we're going to have many more of these kind of discussions, hopefully. down the road. Because I always hate it when an episode is like, regardless of how I feel about the guest, which actually most of the guests, if not all of them I've had, have been pretty good guests. But we had like a couple episodes, I won't mention what they were exactly, but there was a couple where I was like, here's how we feel about it. That's it. Anyways, moving on.
That's it. Bye.
And it's like there's nothing interesting. It's like, even if it's like, I wish we had like something, because at least, again, the Conclave episode, there was something. I was surprised My American Uncle, there was even some kind of like discussion for it. I was like, oh wow, this is really interesting. The other person is very passionately hating this movie. Awesome, great. So we're just gonna jump right into our awards section for this. Let's get right into it. So yeah, Sense and Sensibility was given a limited theatrical run that started on December 13th, 1995. On a production budget of $16 million, the film earned $135 million worldwide, and even started, as we said, a resurgence of popularity for Jane Austen's works. As of right now, there's a remake in the works, distributed by Focus Features, that will star Daisy Edgar Jones, I believe, playing the Emma Thompson role. I could be mistaken. I know she's attached to, she's in the talks to be attached to this adaptation. She had confirmed, I think, on her Instagram, she was holding, the Sense and Sensibility book, and then Focus Features, so, we're in the works, so we'll see how that version turns out. Best of luck. You guys got a lot of shoes to fill, especially for the Alan Rickman role, I gotta say. And so the film was nominated for 7 Academy Awards, which is a fair amount. But it was nominated for Best Picture, Lead Actress for Emma Thompson, Supporting Actress for Kate Winslet, Adapted Screenplay, Cinematography, Costumes, and Original Dramatic Score. And while Emma Thompson lost the Lead Actress Oscar to Susan Sarandon for Dead Man Walking, she did win the Oscar in the Adapted Screenplay category, making her the only person thus far to have won an acting and writing Oscar in her entire career. I didn't get a chance, but if I had more time, I would have looked up to see what were some actors that got nominated for both categories, and especially looked even more deeper to be like, all right, which one of those ended up winning one or the other? Because I think Matt Damon was one who won a screenplay Oscar. Kenneth Branagh won one for Belfast, although he wasn't nominated for that, but regardless. So there, boom, there's 2 people I thought of right on the top of my head. What else? I'm looking through my notes here. So I should also mention the film won a couple of Best Picture prizes at the Critics' Choice Awards, which I believe was the first time they hosted the ceremony. The BAFTAs, which were held after the Oscars, and then the Golden Globes, it won the drama category, and it also got the Producers Guild of America nomination as well, but it lost to Apollo 13. Speaking of Apollo 13, in the Adapted Screenplay category, Emma Thompson went up against Apollo 13, Babe, Leaving Las Vegas, and Il Postino, The Postman. So, Klarissa, why do you think this ended up winning the lone writing Oscar? Why was it that this was the only award the film was able to get away? Your thoughts on it?
I think especially reading the screenplay and diaries, there was just so much intentionality, heart, and spirit behind writing this script. I think that there are too many times that the script kind of goes, and the screenplay just go completely unappreciated from audiences. Mm-hmm. But I think that the sheer effort alone, and like I said, heart, there's clearly passion in the way it was written, and it's hard adapting a screenplay from a really famous literary work. Well, I guess I can't say a really famous. It's not Pride and Prejudice, but it is a very famous literary work of Jane Austen's, and I think there's so much pressure that comes with that, and adaptation really holding the spirit of the book, the novel, and everything that she wanted. And I think just at the end of the day, they felt that. You feel that in the movie when you really pay attention to it and you understand who Jane Austen was, what she contributed to stories. There are formulas now that try to simulate what Jane Austen wrote so naturally at such a young age. And this screenplay holds that heart in it.
It definitely does. I don't know if you got, well, first off, I unfortunately did not get a chance to revisit the other or even watch the other nominees at this time of recording.
I didn't either, yeah.
If I had more time and I didn't have the After Hours Patreon, which I might cover Babe and Il Postino down the road if anyone's interested. It's going to be tough trying to find Il Postino the Postman because it does not have a physical release. I believe it was... the company at the time was by the Weinsteins, which is very much like a tug at collar kind of moment. But back then they were very much notorious with their whole campaigning strategy with awards. And whether we like it or not, like they were the ones responsible for where we are now with Oscar campaigning, where it's like you got to host parties, you got to have interviewers go on, you got to have the actors show up at these press junkets and things like that. The directors got to be there to talk about the movie and, do like, there was like a whole, go to the Academy screening, Academy Museum for a screening and then a Q&A with the director and all the filmmakers and actors and such. So they were partly responsible for that whole, tradition that we're used to doing now with the Oscars. But yeah, just looking at the lineup though, I mean, yeah, this was... You're right, though. This did have, like, compared to the other nominees, it had a fair amount of heart to it in terms of, like, a writing perspective. And also it was, like, a consolation prize for Emma Thompson. But I just also think, like, from a writer's point of view, and this is something that I keep learning, like, the more and more I do the show, the more I'm like, oh, hey, my ego's actually boosting up, or maybe I'm just getting better with predicting these things. But I'm noticing that out of this lineup in particular, it's the most appealing film in terms of like a writer's appreciation for adapting such a novel like this, and the source material is so rich with its material, with its ideas and themes that Jane Austen had, and the fact that Emma Thompson is adapting it with that kind of flowery language, in a good way, I mean. And it ends up being very successful. So many people are praising it. They're like, oh my God, Emma Thompson, such a great writer. And this is like her first screenplay she ever did. She wrote a couple other screenplays after this, but none of them, I don't think any of them were as big of a success as this film was, clearly. And the other nominees in the category, they had other opportunities to win elsewhere. Like Apollo 13, I did rewatch it a couple months ago, and I'm watching it and I'm like, it's a well-crafted movie, but nothing about it really from a screenplay like a screenplay point of view or standpoint, whatever you want to call it. None of it really, it didn't really showcase to me of like, oh, this is like a writing achievement type of movie. It's very much a technical achievement from the visual effects, the score by the late James Horner, the sound work involved, the editing, the production design, things like that. Like there are other categories you could give it Oscars to, mostly in text. And I really just think that's part of the reason why Sense and Sensibility ended up walking away with the Oscar. It also, again, the box office helped. The resurgence for Jane Austen's work really helped. Even the film winning Writers Guild, the USC Scripter Award. I swear these are like legit awards. These is not just like, oh, the popcorn awards. They're legit. The Critics' Choice, Golden Globes, and even the. This is another thing I also want to bring up for this episode too, is that the SAG record also helps its case too. Yes, this is like the second year that the Screen Actors Guild formed itself into its own awards thing, but having an adapted screenplay winner be represented at SAG with some kind of acting nomination showcase that it does have actor support behind it. I mean, even Kate Winslet won the SAG award over Mira Sorvino and even won the BAFTA after the Oscars. So it was a pretty clear cut and dried case of like, okay, maybe Kate Winslet was like number 2 for supporting actress, So yeah, that was pretty clear from the get-go of like, okay, this is going to win adapted screenplay. If nothing else, it's got this in the bag. Now, the other question I want to ask for you in regards to the award section, not really in regards to the adapted screenplay prize, but I'm curious to know if you have any theories or opinions as to why someone like Ang Lee, despite having such a box office juggernaut of sorts of its time like this, not make it in for director. It gets in for picture, it gets in for the 2 acting prizes, some text, it wins adapted screenplay, but yet it can't crack into that top 5 for director. Why do you think that is?
Yeah. That's a really good question. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I think I would like to revisit this year more in depth to like understand, because to me, if somebody doesn't really make that cut to even be like nominated in those years when this is, I mean, seven nominations is
Nominations,
massive.
yeah.
Clearly like a massive deal to have been recognized in so many areas. And you have so much organization as a director, that's really interesting, but I'm just not as familiar with the year to see comparatively where the other nominees at this time were, and seeing like, oh, maybe I could see why this person got the slot. But I definitely think that the direction is very clear and intentional. Like I was saying, there's so much emotion and character in every element of this film, and directors are very much the person that guides that.
Yeah.
Of, you know, what are we going to be doing? Who am I trusting with this? And kind of initiating that. And so I really am not sure. I can't give a solid answer
Okay.
on that.
I was just curious.
I think it's deserved. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely deserved. But
I just want to ask before I gave my whole theories as to why.
yes,
But
I want to hear it.
so first off, I want to point out that the director lineup is very interesting. So this was back in a year of 5, in case anyone forgets. So Apollo 13 and Sense and Sensibility, the only 2 Best Picture nominees to not get into director. However, the other Best Picture nominees that did get into director were Braveheart, which Mel Gibson won the Oscar for, Babe, which was directed by Chris Noonan, Michael Radford for Il Postino the Postman, which I was told ahead of time based on Siskel and Ebert when they were going through their whole surprises of nominations and such. Part of the reason why that got in for picture and director was because of the fact that it had such a successful campaign. They had watch their video if you ever get a chance. I'll try to link it down below in the description for anyone who's interested in seeing what else they have to say about Il Postino and how it got in. But the other 2 films that got in for director were Dead Man Walking and Leaving Las Vegas, which missed the Best Picture lineup. And it's odd because those 2 films not only got in for director, but they also had their leading actors win Oscars. So Nicolas Cage won for Leaving Las Vegas for lead actor, and Dead Man Walking for Susan Sarandon, which I think this was like the last year all 4 of the acting winners came from non-Best Picture nominees. Like, that's never happened since then. Like, even in the expanded field, there's no way that would ever happen nowadays. But I find it really interesting. And I was talking with another buddy of mine. One of the potential theories as to why Dead Man Walking and Leaving Las Vegas got in was the fact that those are directors that, like, their visions are much more appealing to the Academy to the director's branch, but also their ideas and themes that are a lot trickier to nail down, so to speak, in terms of like a visual landscape. Like Leaving Las Vegas was filmed on let me see what the budget was for this. I'm looking through $3.5 to $4 million budget, and it's about a man drinking himself to death with Leaving Las Vegas. And Dead Man Walking is based on I believe based on a true story of Sister Helen Prejean, who Susan Sarandon plays, and it's about her establishing a special relationship with Matthew Poncelet, who's a character based on convicted murderers Elmo, Patrick Sonier, and Robert Lee Willie. I might have mispronounced their names, but essentially he was a prisoner on death row in Louisiana, and she visits him as a spiritual advisor after corresponding with him. So it's a film. So those 2 films on a more, their vision and their ideas and themes are a lot trickier to handle in terms of like the directing, because again, you're not just trusting that they put the camera in the right place and then you get the right actors, but you also have to establish a sense of tone. You have to establish a sense of pacing for the film. What's the rhythm going to be like with these actors? How do you want them to speak in each scene? Are they going to have the very slow, dry, mood, or are you going to have them talk with like a very zany, quick, interspurts of dialogue like an Aaron Sorkin script? So I think that was part of the reason why Ang Lee got knocked out. Also, it didn't help that even though he directed 2 international films into Oscar nominations, Eat, Pray, Man, Woman, I think was one, and he did something else. I think I might have mucked up that name. But he wasn't well regarded by the director's branch yet, as we've seen even recently today. Just because you direct a big moneymaker like Barbie or Dune Part 1 and 2, it does not mean you are automatically getting into the director's lineup. Because this even though the Directors Guild of America, they're okay nominating films like those, but they are not. But the director's branch of the Academy is a whole different story. To where they will say, no, thank you, Edward Berger for Conclave. We are not getting you in. You did a very workmanlike movie, but we're not interested in that. We're interested in a much more challenging types of movies. That's how Drive My Car even got in recently for director. So that's really like it, and it's so weird too. It's like it just shows you the range that Ang Lee had as a director, going back to what I said earlier, because you see him do something like this. And then you see him direct, again, Hulk, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which is the film that finally got him his first director nomination ever within the Academy. And it took them even longer for him to finally get recognized with Brokeback Mountain, and then he won in like a big upset with Life of Pi. So, yeah, those are like some of my theories and reasonings, I think, as to why Ang Lee missed director.
Interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, it just happens sometimes with these directors. Like there are other directors even in recent years that I'm shocked it didn't happen. Like for these kind of like James Mangold finally just got recently a director nomination for A Complete Unknown, and it's like, really, out of all the films you're gonna nominate him for director? Not that I'm like, I like James Mangold's films, but I'm not like, oh, we need to give him a director nod. But it's like, out of all the ones you're gonna give him a nod for, it's this movie. Okay, moving on, I guess. Even, just looking back at this year, Ron Howard for Apollo 13, he didn't get the director nomination, even though he won the Directors Guild of America prize. And he's not nominated for director, and yet we're going to give it to Mel Gibson because obviously they love the big historical epics, but now it's like a big historical epic. This is like even bigger than like the 60s kind of, historic filmmaking we had. And then it took Ron Howard to finally get recognized for A Beautiful Mind, which I'll talk about on my Patreon podcast down the road. So yeah, I just find it interesting to see what are films that the Academy are like, yes, it's your time, we get to nominate you. And there are other special cases where it's like, hey, it doesn't matter if Spielberg made such a populist movie. We like Spielberg. We like, Christopher Nolan. Well, Christopher Nolan, I don't know, but, well, he's too early to even talk about, like, how is he with the Academy, because he only got in with, like, the 2 World War II movies. But you get my drift, essentially. It's like...
Absolutely.
Yeah. I just find it really fascinating. Again, despite all the things that came this film's way, and it's like, we're not going to nominate you for director.
No.
So
the Academy has always been very interesting with the way that they nominate, the way that, I can't believe that they just barely made it a rule that you have to see all the films. Can't believe that.
Yeah, they just did it this year, by the way. It's like going forward.
Yes, exactly. No, it's just barely.
Yeah.
But I've always kind of thought maybe there were things, because back in the day when they started, I don't know if you know much about like the history of the Academy Awards. I know like a very brief overview of it, but Louis B. Mayer, back in the day of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, he said, basically almost verbatim, he just wanted them to work for really cheap.
Yeah.
And he was like, what better way am I going to get people to work for really cheap than hanging gold medals on them?
Yep.
That's what I want. And he's like, all I want is them to keep making money for me. And they would do things, too, to encourage. Like, they were very intentional about things, like promoting certain things in films. This was also, like, getting to the Code era, like, right around then, like, barely pre-Code. The first Academy Award was right before, like, the Hays Code. And so it's just, like, is there anything, like, I've wondered in the past if, like, the Academy promotes certain things, like, oh, we want to encourage this in filmmaking now, and so we're going to nominate more of this than this, and things like that, where clearly films that didn't deserve the win but got the win.
Bohemian Rhapsody.
We all know. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So
maybe if we established
anyway, some theories.
Maybe if we established that rule beforehand, we wouldn't got into the bullshit that we're about to get into with Cooper, where once he, again, I've already shared this with information. I don't care. This is the first time Clarissa's heard me rant about it, but it's like, once we get into Bradley Cooper finally winning his Oscar, I guarantee you it's going to be like another Al Pacino Son of a Woman thing, where it's like, really? You gave it to him for this fucking performance? Come on. That's such bullshit.
Leonardo DiCaprio with The Revenant. I mean, I haven't seen The Revenant, and I'm sure it's amazing, but I'm like, he should have won so far back in the day with What's Eating Gilbert Grape. I think he should have won for that movie. Yeah. Like, I don't know if he was even nominated for that movie, but I saw it and I'm like, wow, that should have been it.
Yeah,
that should have been his movie.
I remember he got he got the nod for it, but it's like these lone acting, like even back then, just because you got a lone acting nod doesn't mean you're automatically guaranteed the win.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's just it's like why is that the movie? I agree with you. It just happens.
Yeah.
So weird system.
Yeah. I just wish they had it. I do find it funny though. It's like they implemented that whole, you must see all the best picture, at least all the best picture nominees, maybe even more. Right after Emilia Perez, after that whole controversy came out, it's like, oh my God.
I wish I could take like moments of my life back from watching Emilia Perez personally. There were just too many moments where I'm like, so why then? But okay. Yeah. I mean, at least we have it now. But oh man, the industry has been around in general for forever. We're getting either close or we've hit or we're coming up on hitting the 100th anniversary of the Academy Awards. So it's like 100 years. We've had 100 years to do this.
Yeah, let's hope they don't have any big muck-ups, because the last couple, not this last year or the last 2 years, I should say, but you look at the whole Oscar slap, and then you got the whole envelope mix-up, and it's like, let's hope there's nothing too big going on at the Oscars, guys. Like,
yeah.
Oh, man. I
can't even with that envelope. Yeah. La La Land's like my number one favorite movie of all time.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
I was in like sobbing tears in that moment. I'm like, you're kidding me.
Yeah. Sorry for opening up an old wound. But that's what happens sometimes.
It's okay, we're covered.
Yeah,
they still won like 6, so we're good.
Yeah. You got director, whatever. Giselle's got his Oscar. Yeah. So I don't really have anything of no. Actually, let me check real quick to see if there's anything else on the list to talk about for nominations was up for. I'm looking through the costume nominations. Yeah, I haven't seen Restoration yet, so. Yeah, but like I said, I would be interested in checking up on, down the road, of course, when the time comes, I would like to check out Leaving Las Vegas and Dead Man Walking. Like I said, a buddy of mine was begging me before I recorded, like, please watch this movie. Like, believe me, I would have done it, but I just did not have the time, and I thought, damn it, all right, fine. Yeah. So I will check them out down the road, along with maybe I might get around to revisiting some of these movies for my Patreon after hours thing with Babe, which won visual effects, and then what was the other one? Il Postino, which won dramatic score. So yeah, but like I said, it's gonna be really hard to find a copy of Il Postino without having to be a swashbuckling pirate.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there are some movies where even my library are like, no, we don't have this in stock. Like, of course, even though it's such a popular movie like Dangerous Liaison, it's like, of course we don't have it in our stock. It's
Why
like,
would we have that?
Like, you mean I have to buy it through Walmart? What? But no, it happens sometimes. I mean, even the more obscure movies I already had to cover for the podcast, like Casanova 70 was really tough to find. Hiroshima no More, I think I found somewhere. But yeah. Anyways.
Oh yeah, 1934 with Andrew and Sarah at Shea Cinema. It was
Revisionist Almanac.
Yes, and one of our movies we couldn't even get because the only copy is very poorly kept, and it's only at UCLA.
Damn.
And so Andrew reached out. He was like, I will fly out there and watch it at UCLA if you'll let me watch it. They never got back to him.
Damn.
So hopefully they do someday. But yeah, no, sometimes movies are just hard to get.
Yeah, that's why we get the Criterion Channel or the Criterion Collection,
Yes.
because we get a lot of obscure movies coming into the woodwork, and even the international films. Like, I probably wouldn't have known about Ingmar Bergman as a director until I saw the Criterion Collection. Yeah, but no, so I appreciate it when there are those who are able to be like, hey, let's remaster, an oldie that no one remembers or hardly remembers. So that's cool. So yeah, but yeah, other than that, I don't really have anything else to add to Sense and Sensibility other than I'm grateful for actually. I think this kind of already answers your question, but I assumed you agree with its at least the fact that it managed to win adapted screenplay. You're happy with that win?
Yes, 100%.
Okay,
very happy with that.
Yeah, I'm okay with it too, personally. Again, even though you already know my feelings on it, and even I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? Don't think I would really be that passionate about the others, because I think, well, you know what? Yeah, I'll save my Babe hot take for another day with that pig. Yeah, that'll be for another time. Yeah, check it out on the Patreon episode. So, anyways,
Deal.
So yeah, like I said, don't really have anything else to add other than I just want to say thank you so much, Klarissa, to being here on the podcast. Would love to have you back on down the road. I don't know what movie else, what's another movie we could do either on this main channel or on the After Hours show. But hopefully we can have something else coming on down the road.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I mean, really, such an awesome opportunity to talk about one of my favorites. So, yay, thank you. And no one talks about this movie enough. So,
yeah,
this is a great opportunity.
Yeah, it's really odd that this doesn't have as many reviews as I don't think it has as many reviews as, like, let's say, like Nightcrawler or even like the Knives Out movies. It's like there's so many of these, like even like Conclave. But like it's just, I know it just came out, but Conclave has more reviews than this. So I'm like, really? Huh.
I know. Yeah, no, it's crazy for sure. Yeah. So great opportunity, great episode.
So before we officially sign off, I just want to ask: is there anything else you'd like to plug in on where our listeners can follow you along after the show is over?
Yeah, totally. Just I've seen that one on Instagram. I'm terrible at TikTok, but I'm technically there if you want to see a lot of like Christmas content, because that was the last time I posted. So if you're on TikTok, sorry, I will get that up today at some point. But I'm mostly on Instagram, and I will be publishing a book hopefully by the end of this month, and then I'm going to start my own podcast in August that will follow that book. So go ahead over to Instagram to keep up with me there.
Yeah, and awesome. Yeah, I encourage everyone to follow her on Instagram, especially. And let me know. Hopefully, if our schedules align, maybe we could collab on your podcast if you'd like. It's up to you. But at the
100%, please.
At the very least, you're definitely coming back on the show.
Yes.
So yeah, I don't care what any of the comments say. Like, oh no, don't bring her back. I don't care. You're coming back on. I overrule them.
I love it. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. As for me, you could follow myself and the show through Linktree under @Matthew995, where you can follow along on all my social media accounts, such as Twitter and Letterboxd. On the same site, I've also provided a link where you listen to more episodes of the show through Spotify and YouTube. Also, After Hours is posted as we speak. Well, when this is up, the After Hours podcast should be on. It's a paid membership where you get all bonus content for our, films that beat out the Lone Screenplay winners. We also have the Lone Tech winners. We might do more bonus episodes on there. Films that I may not be able to talk about on here directly. Only have to pay $3 a month. If you're interested in being on, just notify me. Well, either on this show or on that show. Just notify me. We'll work up something together, and I'll try to bring out as many episodes as I can over the next coming months. But yeah, we'll see what happens, because my schedule right now is a bit of a whirlwind where it's like, what kind of job could I get that could I'm able to pay off the bills, but I'm also able to get these episodes out to you guys. So schedules might change. I might have to limit my episodes. We'll see what happens. Just so I can get enough out there without burning out. Because that's always an issue when you're running these kind of podcasts. And you'll probably run into those issues too when you start yours. But yeah, so like I said, check out our show through Spotify and YouTube. I've also put it in the YouTube episode. I also put up my new Criterion Collection video in case you guys want to see what I have collected over the years for my Criterion set. Check it out. It's only like 30 minutes long. I've also linked in it all the films that I've collected along with the links. Same thing with the Amazon affiliate. I've provided the links. You know, if you're interested in buying any of the films I own, click on the links, check them out, and with you get no additional cost. Whatever the price is on there is what it is, and I get a commission, or a small commission from each purchase you make. And if you're interested in being in the hot seat, let me know, and hopefully we can arrange that happening soon. In the meantime, we hope you enjoyed listening to this episode, and we hope to see you at the movies. Take care, guys.